afternoon, everybody. Welcome to GDSC's very first session on our front end workshop. Thank you for taking your time out of this lovely weekend to join our session. I can't thank you all enough. So my name is Philip, and I'll be your MC for today, as well as my co-presenter Jesse.
Hi guys. As Philip mentioned, today is the first session of a three-part workshop, with the other two held on the next 2 weeks. Today we have the creator of all things epic with many simple projects under his belt and is now working as a front-end developer intern in one of Indonesia's major company. We have Jason as our speaker for today.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, if you guys will have any questions later on during this session, there will be a Q&A session later on. So be sure to save up or maybe keep your questions in some kind of place for your notes and stuff like that. So you can just save them up for later in our very own specialized Q&A session. So Jason, you may have the floor.
Okay. Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Christian Highlando. I'm Binusian 2023. I'm the current advisor of GDSC Binus International, and last year I was the lead. And today I will be here as a speaker for React workshop in 3 parts. So today and in the next 2 sessions, we will be learning how to create an actual working application in React. And yeah, so let's just do it. So yeah, so first of all, let's introduce to you guys what is React. So what is React? So React is an UI library used to create front-end applications. So if you guys don't know front-end application, that's basically what you guys are seeing when you open your browser and open website. So HTML, JavaScript, and CSS is front-end. And so React is a library which is used to make creating websites and interactive apps much more easier and much more elegantly. So yeah, you can see the GIF at the bottom right that's created in React. And on the bottom left here is the logo for React. So one of the examples for React's websites created in React is Tokopedia. So as you guys can see here, this is a screenshot of Tokopedia. All of this website is made in React. So if I go to the next slide, you guys will see I put some squares over some of the things here. So the squares here represents something what we call a component in React. So what is a component? So a component is basically something that contains an HTML element. So there's a lot of components here. So React is basically a website made in React is basically made out of components, and so you create these components to create stuff. Yeah. So let's go to the next slide. So React is the most popular library for frontend at the moment. So you guys can see here in the ranking. So this is courtesy of State of JS 2021. So that's State of JavaScript 2021. And you guys can see here in 2016 until 2021, React is at the top, second only to Angular and Vue and so on. So yeah, 67% of developers surveyed would use React again. So that's 26% more than Vue, which is the second one. And this is the notable websites that uses React. So we have a lot of websites here: WhatsApp, Traveloka, Netflix, Shopee, blah blah blah. So everything here is made in React. And so you guys may notice here I put in Discord too. So if you guys use Discord, the desktop app, that's entirely made in React. So the Discord app in your computer is actually emulating a web browser, and everything there is basically React and JavaScript. So I'm not talking about the website here. I'm talking about actually the entire app. The entire app is made in React. So yeah. So let's let me open a new web window and go to tokopedia.com. So let's just go to here because I don't have the widget open. So if I go to Tokopedia here, you guys can see here that this is all made in React. And I have a helpful widget here called Webalizer. So Webalizer tells you all the technologies being used in a website. So you guys can see here, JavaScript frameworks. One of them is React, Emotion, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's made in React. And that's basically it, see. So let's go to the next slide. So you guys might be wondering, why do we have to use React? I mean, we have HTML and JavaScript and CSS, right? You guys might be already learning it in your college courses, maybe not, who knows? So why do we have to use an extra library for everything? So first, front-end libraries or frameworks like React. So React as a library deals with data much more scalably and more ease than pure JavaScript. So as you can see in the case of Tokopedia here, you see one page, there's a lot of things going on. You see like top-up tagihan, pulsa, you click packet data and this changes, you click listrik and this changes, and everything here changes. And if you scroll down, it will load up a new page of products and so on. That's all in React. So when you use React, everything here, when you program things here, it will get much more easier. And if you're working in a team, especially, you will find that it's much easier to work with. So I'm currently interning as a full stack developer in BCA. So, but mostly I'm handling front end. So unfortunately, in the company, we don't use React, but we use Angular. But you can see that companies uses frameworks like React and Angular and so on, so that we can work as a team and we can basically collaborate with each other. So there's consistency, and in the long run, yeah, it just makes sense. And second, single page applications, very fast. So with React, this is one of the core benefits is you create a single page application. Well, what does that mean? So if I go back to Tokopedia here, and let's just say I click on one of the products here. Let's say this headset here. If you click here, it loads very fast. You might notice it doesn't load another new page. It is still in the same page, but it just changes the content of the body here. So as you can see, the header is still the same, but the one that changes is this body right here, and it's fast. The same doesn't go with Google, for example. So if you type Google here, and then type something, it will go to another page. So you have to load in another page. And in the case of Tokopedia here, it doesn't load another page. It just changes the body here. So that's the core benefit of React, is that everything is fast. So yeah, and using React, yeah, you can basically create not only websites or desktop applications or desktop web apps. You can also create mobile apps. So React can also be used to create mobile apps. And yeah, that's basically it. So let's take a look at an example of a React app. So as you can see here, this is a code example of React. So yeah, React is basically JavaScript, right? So you code everything in JavaScript. So you define a function button here, and then basically these two code will create this thing in the middle here. So two buttons, one has a border, one is a field. So basically you use functions to create HTML elements here. So we're mixing JavaScript and HTML. So normally JavaScript and HTML is separated, right? But in React, we combine them. And here you can see that we create a new HTML element called input and then value. And in here, we have curly braces here. This is not normally in HTML, but React allows us to do this. So basically, what this does is it allows us to put variables in the HTML. So value here is basically the name. So name is from here. And class is bordered, is like this. So if you guys don't know what this means, this question mark and colon here, this basically means, let me open Notepad. This is the equivalent of if is bordered, return border, else return fill. So this is a long code, right? So if you want to shorten it, you can just use this question mark and colon. It's the much shorter way. So that's basically it. And in the second function here, you can see that we use button here. So button refers to this one that we have created before. And you can actually pass in the variables here. So name equals not bordered. So name here will appear here and then will be inserted here, and is bordered means that is bordered is true. So it will be this class instead. So this is just the JavaScript. We don't have the CSS here, but I think you can guess the CSS. So next, before we start, I have a little tip. So failing is natural. It's really okay to make as many mistakes as you can in programming and learn. So yeah, just make as much mistake, just try stuff out, and if it doesn't work, at least you learn something. And yeah, for this workshop, I really recommend you guys to actually type too, so just not copy paste. Everything here, the code base will be available in GitHub. So yeah, you guys can see the code in GitHub later. Steph, can you copy paste the GitHub here? The GitHub link for this. Thank you. So yeah, let's just get started with the workshop. So 10 minutes, okay. So first, before we actually type anything, we have to create the project, right? Oh yeah, let's bring this here now. So view, post it. Okay. Yeah, okay. So this is the agenda for today. Creating React app, blah, 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 blah. Routing, okay. Oh, I don't think this is it. But it's close. Yeah, okay. There it is. Thank you. So everything will be available there. So yeah. So first of all, I hope you guys have your VS Codes ready. So you guys can open your VS Code now. And so now, the first thing that we have to do is we have to create the React application. So to do that, you first open your VS Code. Don't open any folders yet. So first of all, let's open the terminal and new terminal. And so the first thing that we want to do is we cd first to see this change directory. We go to the directory that we want the React project in. But if you don't understand that, that's okay. You don't need to do anything. But first, I'm gonna go to my documents and go to my folder. And the next thing, to create the React app, we have to type npx create React app and ShareCal. So let me ls first. Okay. Create npx create React app and then ShareCal frontend. Okay, so to run this command, you have to actually install Node first. So I hope you guys already installed Node. And if you don't have Node yet, I guess it's your time to install now. But basically, we're gonna run this command now. So npx create React app, and then this parameter is the name of your app. So basically you can type whatever you want, but for me, I'm gonna type ShareCal frontend, and after typing, let's just hit enter, and yeah, it's gonna create the new React app. So this is gonna take a while. So while this is happening, I'm gonna go to my website again and my browser, and I'm gonna show you guys some stuff about React. So first of all, everything in a website, everything that browsers can display is made in 3 languages. So it's made in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this three is the most, not is the most, this three is the only languages the browser can run. So basically, everything that you type has to be converted into HTML, JS, and CSS later in the end, so your browser can display it. So you guys can see here. Okay, it's still running. It's gonna take a while. So HTML is basically made out of HTML and then head and then body and so on, right? So it's really recommended that you guys have basic HTML and CSS and JavaScript. No, just HTML and CSS experience first. So if you guys pretty much know a little bit about HTML and CSS, it's gonna be not easy, but it's gonna be much more simpler to learn. So basically everything is made out of div, header, h1, and then so on and so on. So basically we are going to type in HTML2 basically. So let's check the progress. Oh yeah, it's still loading. So it's gonna take a while again. So why do we need to create a new React project? Can we start from like creating the files one by one? So of course, you can create the files one by one for a React project, but it's generally not recommended, especially for beginners. That's because when we generate a project using Create React App, it already prepares so much for us, and so much is being done for us that it's actually good and helpful. So for example, when we create React App, this actually contains a lot of libraries that we have to use basically in React, and it really helps. And the most liked feature that I like about Create React App is basically this feature where if you save something in your VS Code, your browser will automatically refreshes. So that's really cool. So okay, we have the project ready. So I hope you guys who are following also have this ready too. So you guys can see some text here. You guys can read it, but yeah, that's basically what we want to run next is npm start. So if we have this created, let's open the folder on our VS Code. And let's go to where we created. So documents, GitHub, and then ShareCal frontend, and select folder. It's gonna load everything. And yeah, I think that's it. So if you have opened the project that we have generated, let's go to the terminal again. And we have to start this React project. So at this moment, we have created everything, but we haven't started it. So let's type npm start. So npm start will start our React project. It will start a new server in localhost that we can access. So yeah, it's gonna print some stuff and then starting the development server. And it will go to our browser and open up localhost 3000. And it's gonna load for a bit because it's gonna generate all the files. Oops. And okay, it's gonna load. And hey, if we have done everything right, then this should appear. So basically, this is the app that we have generated. So edit src app.js and save to reload. So let's do what it told us to do. So go to src app.js, and here you can see something similar to what I showed in the PPT. So like I said, if you edit something here and then you save it, it will automatically refresh it on the right side, and bam, it changes. So it's pretty cool. So this is why you create the React app, because of it already prepares so much for you. And yeah, let's take a tour on everything here on the left side. So it created a lot of files, right? So let's go through them one by one. So README is just basically the description for the project. This will appear later in GitHub in package JSON. So this package JSON contains all the libraries that you use in your React app. So we have testing libraries, we have React itself, React DOM, Web Vitals, and so on. And package lock is basically the more complete manifest for all the libraries that you use. You just need to ignore this. It's not really important. And we have license, git ignore. So yeah, this is basically ignores everything that you don't need. And then we have these files, setup tests, report web vitals. This is not really important, but what's important is index.js. So index.js here is basically where we create our React app. So it's already been generated for us. So to be honest, we don't really have to care much about this. So it just imports app from app.js. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you guys. So in JavaScript, like this, we can import stuff. So we can have a lot of files, and then we just need to import them from the top here. Or you can even import CSS in React. So this index.css. So this contains the CSS that we need, and we can import them. And everything here will be applied with index.css. So that's that. So we don't need to care about this. We need to care about app.js because basically we type everything here. So yeah, app.js, and if you change, it will change too. So that's basically it. Okay, before we start typing anything, can you guys please download this? I put something in the chat. So this contains all the assets and all the utility codes that we need in our project. Oh yeah, by the way, if I go too fast or you guys need to ask something, just ask in the chat, okay? I will respond. So download that and then go back to VS Code, and then you right click src and you click reveal in file explorer. So you go here, you double click src, and then you open the archive, and then you just need to put it here. And after you put it here, yeah, we can just straight go to coding. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you guys the project that we're making. So the GDSC team has created something in Figma. So this is the complete app that we will be making. So it's called ShareCal. So ShareCal is basically a platform where you can create schedules and you can share schedules and you can add new entries. So kind of like Google Calendar, but you can share this with everyone. So the way you share it is you share a link. So for example, if ShareCal is available in sharecal.com, then how you share it is just sharecal.com/my sweet calendar or something. I don't know. and you share it with your friends, and if they open it, something like this will appear, and they can add their own entries to the calendar, but they have to have their own passwords first. So the passcode is entered here. So if you don't have the passcode, you can only view, but if you have the passcode, you can also edit. So that's the end game for our application. So we need two parts. So we need the front end and we have the back end. So the back end, we will not be discussing about that because the GDSC team will be creating that in our spare time, but we will just create the front end. So if you guys are interested in seeing the backend too, just let us know. So this is basically the application that we want to create, and this is the page that we want to create first. So today the goal is to create this page. So we have tags, we have input boxes, we have grade and random name. So yeah, let's just do it then. Okay, so the two files that we need to keep our eyes on is, for now, is app.js and app.css. So app.js and app.css contains our CSS and HTML and JavaScript. So the first thing that we need to do is just empty this because we don't need it anymore. You can also delete the import here for the logo. And let's save, and yeah, nothing will appear. But if we type something here, something will appear. Yeah, and so first of all, let's create the background first. So we have a background here, and yeah, let's create that first. So let's go to app CSS. So we don't need everything here, right? So we can just delete it. But we should keep app because we can just edit this. So to create the background, we have to define the background color first. So the background color is this. I don't actually know. So let's just check. Okay, it's this. So I'm using another plugin for this, but you guys can just see, you guys can just copy the color from me. So it's 000F10. So that's the background color. And if we hit save, this will update too. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you guys that this also updates based on CSS too. So if you save CSS, it will change too. Okay, thank you, Steph. And so, okay, we have the background color, but it's not full yet. It's not quite the browser height that we want. So that's also easy. So all we need to do is height equals 100 VH. So 100 VH means that 100% the view height. Okay. 100% height of the browser. And so let's save it, and bam. Okay. But we can't see anything. So because our text is black. So all we need to do is color white, and bam. So color is, this is kind of misleading, but color here means that it's the text color, not the background color. So okay, that's done. And so, oh yeah, we also have a background here, if you guys notice. So we have this wavy background here. So this is included in the archive that you guys have downloaded. So if you go to assets and we go to index background, yeah, this is an SVG file. So SVG file is basically an image, but it's in a vector format. So the benefit of using SVG on top of PNG is because SVG is much more smaller and it's vector. So because it's vector, it doesn't get pixelated. It doesn't get pixelated. You will see a really clean image. So if you take a look at main logo PNG here, if we zoom in, yeah, it gets pixelity, especially in the edge parts. But in the case of SVGs, they don't do that. So yeah, it's cool. So to do that, we just need to set background image. Oh yeah, by the way, autocomplete is really nice, so you guys should use that. And background image URL, I think it should already been enabled in every browser, in every VS Code URL. And then we hit quotations, and then we go to the path where index background is. So dot slash is the current directory, what it means. So next we go to assets, and then we select index background 01 SVG. So hit save and bam. Okay, it's really ugly. We don't want that. So that's fine. That's because the background is too small. So the browser has to accommodate by tiling them up and down. So to make it not tile, all we need to do is background attachment. Okay, it's not background attachment. I forgot. I think it's background size. Okay. It's either cover or contain. I forgot. Okay, it's cover. Okay. Okay, so we have background now. So it's looking kind of similar to what we want. And so we already do the background. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to actually create the contents, right? So yeah, let's do that. So, okay. So we're done in app.js. So the next step that we need to do, okay, so now we are entering your first component. So let's create a new folder called pages. So the keen eye between you might notice that, yeah, we have multiple pages here. Multiple pages. I think we only have two actually. Okay. So we need one HTML for this and one HTML for that. So basically in React, if you want to create different pages, you create a component for each one of them. So here I'm going to create a new JavaScript file called home.jsx. Okay, I'm gonna explain this. So if you want to create a React component, it's really important that you have capital letter at the beginning, and then this is optional, but your file format can either be JS or JSX. So I choose JSX here because it's there to differentiate between normal JavaScript files and component JavaScript files. So that's my rationale, but it doesn't need to be different. Okay. So we have to create a component here, right? So we have to type in something here. So I'm gonna type function home. So we are going to create our first component here. So function home, this has to be the same as the file name. Function home, and then this, and then that, and then it has to return something. So for now, I'm just going to return diff, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then export default home, semicolon. Okay. That's it. And let's go to app.js, and we replace the side with home. So we type element open home. So it's gonna autocomplete for us because we just created it. Let's hit enter, and then we close it. And if we hit save, yeah, it works. So home. So if you don't want to create something like this, home, yeah, something like this. So you don't need to put any. So you don't really need to put anything in the middle, right? Because it's just one thing. So you can just type it in shorthand like this. So home, and then close it, and then close it. So yeah, you can type that. Okay. So we have home here, and yeah, we are going to create the UI elements here, basically. Okay. So next is HTML design and style, and let's hit enter here so we can see better. And so the first thing that we need to create here is the image here, the calendar thing. So let's create a new image type. Remember, React is basically just HTML. So yeah, you can create normal HTML elements here, image. And so we go to SRC. So if you guys know HTML, SRC is the path to the image here. So we go to assets. We have main logo here, which is our main logo. And so we want to insert this. So the way we insert this into React is not by typing assets and then main.logo. No, we don't do that. But instead, what we do is this: we import the image. So import logo from the path assets. Oh, okay. I have to go back because we're in a folder. So the double dot and slash means that we go back one folder. I think I forgot to turn on something. Hold on. Okay. I forgot about this. Okay, now it's on. That's okay. Let me repeat. So double dot slash, and then we go to assets, and then we type in main underscore logo dot png. And so import logo here. This name, it's really up to you. You can type main logo or something. It's just the name. And so in the image SRC here, we change the quotation into curly braces, and then we insert main logo. And there's yellow squiggly lines here. And so, okay, must have an alt prop. So we just type alt main logo. So this basically will show if the image is they failed to load it. So let's hit save, and yeah, okay, we have the image here. So that works. So that's how you use an image in React. And okay, this is kind of too big. I'm gonna make it smaller later. But first, let's create the second element, which is welcome to ShareCal. So let's create h1 here and type welcome to ShareCal. Save it and bam, okay. So okay, you might notice that it's not really in the middle, huh? We want it to be in the middle. So how do we do that? So we can put it in the middle using Flexbox. So I'm gonna create a Flexbox in the CSS now. So let's create a new file called home.css. It's a good idea to separate your CSS from your JSX files. So we have created home CSS. Let's import it so we can use it. Home.css. Okay, it still works. And then in this div here, I'm going to create a class called container. Okay, and in home CSS, I'm going to type dot container because it's the selector for the main container. And I'm gonna type display flex. And if we hit save, okay, now it goes to the side. We don't want that, so we type flex direction column. So if we wanted to flex top to the bottom, we type column here. If we want to flex left to the right, we type row. So basically the default one is row. So let's type column now. Save, and oh wow, okay. Okay, I don't think we want that, right? So, okay, let's fix that. So to fix it, all you need to do is put image in a div. Why? Because in this state, what Flex will do is it will stretch this image component from the left to the right fully. So if we put it inside a div, only the div will be stretched out. The image won't be. So to put this into a div, this is a neat trick in VS Code. Like, I want you guys to know. So you type Control Shift P, and then you type wrap with abbreviation, and then hit enter. And then here you type div, enter. And just like magic, the image is now in a div. And if we hit save, yeah, okay, it's fixed. It's still the same, but using Flex now, because we are using Flex, now we can control where it shows. So, okay, let me cheat a little bit because I kind of forgot what the CSS is. Okay, so align items center, because we want this thing to be in the center, right? And if we save, okay, it's now in the center, but it's in the center horizontally. So align items is for horizontal stuff. If we want to also align it vertically, we need to enter justify content center. And if we hit save, yeah, it still doesn't do anything because it needs one more. That is height 100%. That's because if we had inspector here, okay. So if you guys are doing web development, this inspector thing is, I think if I say important, is an understatement. It's basically your lifeline. So you guys use this to inspect stuff. So if you see here, our div, which is a container, this one here, this is not full. So we need this to be a full height, so we can use justify content center. So height 100%, and this should fix everything. Okay, fixed everything. So okay, I'm gonna make the image folder. So class logo, save, and then here dot logo, the width. You only need to set the width. I'm just gonna set it to 96 pixels. Let's try. Yeah, sure. Okay. So welcome to ShareCal. And then we type another H2 here. So the next text is calendar sharing and collaboration platform. Save it. And bam, okay. Okay, so you might notice that where's there a lot of space within this. And so you can use your handy dandy inspector tool to see why that is. So if you hover over welcome to ShareCal and calendar sharing and collaboration platform, you guys can see something yellow there, and that's called margin. So if we scroll here, we can see the margin is 19 pixels. So okay, this is an annoying thing about browsers, is that they put margins in H1 and H2 and H3 until H5, H6 by default. So you need to basically remove this. So to do that, all we need to do is go to index.css. So index.css is the main CSS. So everything that we type here will be applied to basically everything. So if we create home CSS, we only use this in home JSX, right? So home CSS will only apply to home JSX and below that. But index CSS will apply to everything basically. So if you want to set your fonts here, default fonts, default font sizes, and margins and everything, you set it here. So in index CSS, I'm gonna type h1, h2, h3, h4, h5, h6, and then inside, I'm gonna type margin 0. So I'm gonna set it by default to be 0. And if I save, okay, it's fixed. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to actually color it, right? So to do that, I'm gonna select ShareCal because we are going to color this. I'm gonna wrap it in span. So span here means that this element will be still in line with all of the text. We just select it so we can color it. So yeah. Oh, by the way, guys, I made a mistake. So in normal HTML, you type class, right? But in React, class, if you type class, your console will throw an error here. So invalid DOM property. So React actually changes the name of the class to be class name. So let's type that instead. Class name, fix that. And this is class name too, okay. And so here in the span, I'm gonna type class name and then cyan, okay. And then here, I'm gonna do it for sharing too. So wrap, span, and then class name is cyan. And collaboration to span cyan. Okay, so if I hit save, it won't do anything just yet. But if we go to home.css, we type cyan, and then color equals to the cyan color here, which I don't know the color. Oh wait, we have it on the side. Oh yeah, so it's hashtag 48 E5 C2. And let's go to our, okay, let's go to our React app again. And if it's save, bam, look at that. Pretty similar to what we have going on. So the next thing that we are creating is, let's create the text boxes. So text, we are in reusable component now. Okay, so at this point, let's take a break for a second. So do you guys have any questions? Any difficulties yet? So we have 30 people. You guys have any questions up until this point, or anything you got stuck on? Yeah, you can ask now. If there is no questions, I'm gonna continue. Don't forget to drink water. There's no ads for this song. Damn. Hello, sir. Okay. So I already put the asset in the chat, but if you still don't have it, I'll send it again. Hold on. Yeah, okay, this is it. You extract it to your SRC folder. Okay. Yeah, by the way, don't call me sir. I'm still semester 6. Feel really old.
Oh, and the background file is the SVG file specifically, by the way. Just
Oh yeah.
you know.
So you apply it in app CSS, and in background image, you go to URL assets syntax background 01 SVG. If you don't want to type it. Why there's nothing? That's because we created now. It's those folders are not generated, so we have to create it by ourselves. So basically, we create folders just so that everything is tidy. So everything, you know where everything is. So assets, misc, and pages we created on our own. So misc and assets you downloaded from the archive I just sent, and pages is the one that we actually create just now. So yeah. Oh yeah, in the meanwhile, I'm gonna commit there. We get that. Git commit. First commit. Okay, so I already pushed, so it should be in the repository now. If we make any progress, I'm gonna push again. Okay, let's continue then. So hopefully all the questions has been answered. So next thing that we have to create is we create this form thingy. So yeah, let's go back to home JSX and let's type in div because we are going to put everything in this div. You know, not div. Let's just change it into a form because it's a form. So hit save, and then we have to create this two here, right? The label and the text box. So all you need to do is type in label. What's the text again? Enter cal name. Okay. Enter cal name. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. Then titik dua, and then what's the next thing? Oh yeah, the input box. So for the input box, let's just save first. Okay. So for the input box, this is at the point where we create another component. Why? Because we use input boxes everywhere. So this we use input boxes, and if you take a look at another component, we use input box here too. Input box, input box, input box. We use it pretty much everywhere. So we have to create a reusable component for that. So that's what components are for in React. So when we create component, we can use it again in another file. So yeah, if we create something like an input component, we can style it in one place, we can put code in one place, and then we reuse it everywhere, not needing to repeat what we type again. So let's create a new component for this input box. So in SRC, I'm gonna create a new folder called common. So common here means that common components that we might use later on. So let's create input box.jsx. And so let's type function input box return export default input box. And then here I'm gonna return an input box. So HTML already have an input box. So all you need to do is type the element input and then type is text. And then placeholder, blah, blah, and value. Not yet, okay. So we close it like that. And then we hit save. Don't forget to create a new CSS for that. So we can import it. Import input box dot css semicolon. Okay, that's the component. And so we create a new component, JSX and CSS, so we can style it later. And we go back to home, and then we type open HTML element and then input box. So it should appear in our autocomplete. And yeah, we can type it like that. So if your autocomplete doesn't work, you can trigger it using if you type partially, and for example, the prompt doesn't appear, you can hit Control Space. So Control Space in VS Code is trigger autocomplete, and if it still doesn't appear, unfortunately, you are going to have to import it manually. So you just copy the code here to the where the component is. So if we hit save, yeah, this will appear. So okay, so we have enter cal name and then blah blah, and then what we want to do next is we put this inside a div. So everything is back because we are going to copy this div. You know what? Let's change this into a li. And then li here. So it's not div, it's li. So why do we have to use li? Because it's a list of things. It's just arbitrary. See. So it's just to tidy stuff up. So okay, everything is here. Okay, will everyone be given the recording? Yes, we are currently recording it. So I think the recording will be later, yeah. Okay, so let's go back here and then enter passcode. Okay, change this into enter passcode. Save it and okay. Okay, so our next job is to actually remove this dots thing, right? Wait, what happens if I use div instead? Okay, okay, let's just use div there. Let's not use li. So form, inside the form, there's divs. And we put enter cal name input box, enter passcode input box here. So yeah. So the next thing that we have to do is we have to style this. So first of all, let's give a margin here. So between the text in the title and the text box, we have a bit of a space, right? So we can add space there using margin. So form, I'm gonna type class name. Form. Main form. Okay, and then we go to home CSS. Remember, because we are in home JSX, we go to home CSS. So we type main form. And then we apply margin top. Let's try 32 pixels. Okay, that looks good. So yeah, okay. And so the next thing that we have to do is we have to align this somehow, right? So if you see here, both of the divs, yeah, it's not really looking good, right? One is shorter than the other. So to fix that, let me cheat. Hold on, sorry. Okay. Okay. So we put another class here. So let's name it form box. And we apply it to this one too. So form box. And then inside the form box, let's type in margin first because we want some separations between the two. So let's just enter 8 pixels. I'm gonna display this as flex. Okay, display as flex, and I'm gonna justify content flex and if we save, okay, it's fixed. Okay, cool. So we have that fixed. And so, okay, but we don't have we also have some separations between the label and the input box, right? So we have to apply margin to the label here. So to do that, all we need to do is we type form box again. So you might notice here, inside this form box, there is label, right? So we can select that. So all we need to do is form box space label. So what this will do is this will select the label. So this one here. And so I'm going to type margin right. And then let's type 48 pixels. Okay. That's too much. 32. Okay, sure, fine. Okay. And then we also can control the size of the text. So font size. Let's try 1.5 rem. So rem is kind of standard if you want to style text. I guess you can use pixels too, but I really like rem, so yeah. Let's just change it to 1.5. Okay, so we have this. Now, what we need to do is we need to style this input box, right? So let's go to input box.css. So because we only have one here, input. So we just type input here. So okay, this question might appear in your guys' mind. So what is the difference between dot and not dot in CSS? So when we have dot, we select the class name. So if we go to home here, we have container as the class name, right? So we type dot container here. But if we want to select the HTML element instead and not the class, we don't use dot. But it's kind of dangerous if you don't use dot, because if, for say, you type div here, because we are using a lot of divs, it's gonna apply to every div here, right? And we might not want that. So we use classes here for specificity. So yeah. So we go to input here. And so the first thing that we need to do is let's make the text larger first. So font size, let's make it the same, 1.25 rem. Okay, we have it bigger now. And then next thing is, if you zoom in here, you might notice that it has a border here, which is kind of ugly. Don't want that, so you can type border 0. Bam, okay. But now, in the original one, we have kind of like spaces, right, between this text to the top here. So the space between the text and the top here, we call that padding. So we have margin and we have padding. So padding is the space between the text or the content to the border. So the border is the edge of the box here. And the margin is the space between the border and to the next element besides it. So in this case, we want to set padding. So padding, we can set it to, like, for example, 16 pixels. Okay, that's kind of too big. So we can apply a different padding for top, bottom, and left, right. So just enter another value here. Okay, let's change this into 12 instead. This is 6. So yeah, okay. So what this means is that the padding is 6 pixels for left and right, and the padding is 12 pixels for top and bottom. So yeah, we have that. And oh yeah, now this is not in the middle anymore, right? So we can fix that. So let's go back to home CSS. And in the form box here, I'm gonna type align items center. Okay, thank God. I thought that's not gonna work. Okay, so that's how you do it. And so, okay, another thing is that we have kind of like rounded edges here, right? So we don't have that yet. So let's just type round border radius 8 pixels and bam. Okay, looking pretty similar. The next thing is we need to change the text box color. So the text box color is background color hashtag and copy paste that. So that's E6, 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 and save it, and bam. Whoa, now it's really similar to what we have. Okay. Not really, but yeah, really, okay. So we can also change the height and the width. Let's just no, okay, 10. Okay, so we can also change the width to for example 200 pixels. Okay, that's smaller. 300. There we go. Okay. So, but normally we don't set the width here. So never mind. We actually set the width in main form. So width, let's say 500 pixels. Oh, what? Okay. The div. Okay, I think the input box, can we set it with 100%? Okay. Okay, that's too big. Never mind. Okay, let's not change that. Let's just keep it as it is. So I'm gonna delete that, and yeah, we have this. And so we can fill it, and it's pretty similar to what we have currently. So the next thing that we have to create is the buttons, right? So yeah, let's create the buttons. So the buttons is gonna be reusable too. So we need to create another component here in common called button.jsx. And remember, type in everything, button, pop, return. So here we return another input because HTML has already a built-in button. So input type is button, and then we just close it. Oh yeah, we have value too. So button. So let's go to export default button. Save it, and then don't forget to create a CSS for the button. So yeah, okay, we have that, and let's go back to home.jsx. Outside of the form, we can put another div, and here we are going to place our buttons. Button 1 and button 2. Okay, so class name buttons. Okay, so you guys can see here the button is kind of weird. That's because when I type input here, it messes up everything because both the text box and both the input and the button is an input element. So it's not really specified. So it applies it to both of them. So to change this, let's go to input box CSS and change this input into this. So input square brackets type equals text. So if I hit save, okay, it's fixed. So it only applies to the text, to the input type text. And for the button CSS, to select it, I'm gonna do this too. Input type equals button. Remember that this is because if we go to button, the input is type of button. So we select it by that. So we open and let's create the button something like this. So to do that, first we need the background color is forgot, it's the same as this. So hashtag 48 E5C2, and then hit save. It's not changing. Wait, Oh yeah, I forgot to import it, of course. Import button.css. Okay. So we can zoom in. Yeah, there's the ugly borders there, so we can make them disappear. And then after that, we also have the padding. So let's type padding is 32 pixels to 6 pixels. Okay, I got that mixed up. So it should be in this. So we want to make it long, right? Okay. And after that, we just need to border radius 8 pixels. So hit save and bam. We have a button. So, okay. So the next thing is we need to make a button that's pressable, right? So at this state, you guys don't know that this is a button, right? So it's not really clear. If you hover over it, it does nothing. So the first thing that we can do is we add cursor pointer. So if it's safe, and then we hit over the button, we hover over the button, the mouse will change, and so oh yeah, people will know this is a button. But this might not be enough. Hold on. This might not be enough. So you might notice that in Google, for example, blah blah blah, if you hover over the links, something will change in the text too, right? So we can do that. So all we need to do is input, and then we select button again. You guys can just copy paste it, and then at the end here, I'm going to type :hover. So what this will do is this CSS, everything here will be applied if our button hovers over the button. So I can change the background color into something darker. So let's select this background color, copy it. Let's search color picker in Google. And then of course Google has this. And then you can select the hex. Then you Control V to replace it with our own. And so we select a darker color. Okay, that looks better. So we copy this and then we paste it here. And we save and then we hover over it. Bam! The button looks more alive. Okay. Forgot some things. Font size, one rem. Yeah, sure. Okay. One rem, then padding more the merrier. Okay, looks better now. So yeah, that's pretty much the HTML things. Oh yeah, we need some space within the button and the text box. So let's go to Home CSS and select buttons and margin top 32 pixels again. Okay, we got that. And then of course we need the separations within the button. So okay, I'm gonna do some CSS magic here. So this is the magic. Get that margin left 16 pixels. Okay, I'm not gonna go too deep into what is this sorcery, but basically what this does is for every component that is in buttons, you apply this. So you apply margin left, but you apply margin left to everything except the first component. So if we hover over button here, this doesn't have a margin, but for this button, it has a margin. So for example, if I copy this, duplicate again, save. So this doesn't have a margin. This has. So that's what it does. So it's really handy for for spacing, basically. So yeah, that's the magic. And so yeah, well, it's pretty much already similar. We forgot one more thing. So let's go to this. Let's type H6. So this is our last element. So users who enter the passcode on your calendar will receive an edit access. Save it. Okay, it's kind of small. Let's change it into an H5. Okay, so doesn't have a space again. So we can either make buttons margin bottom or H5 margin top. So I'm just gonna do buttons because we already have it. So buttons, margin bottom, 32 pixels. Okay, and let's change H5 to be something darker. So color, I'm gonna change it to 24 instead. 16 actually. Color, hashtag, EE. That's too bright, actually. Let's just do 55. Ah, that's too dark. 999. Okay, BBB. CCC. Okay, sure. Okay, that's enough. And so yeah, we have all the elements done. But you might notice that, okay, this button is a button. Why is it not create and random name? So we go into our next topic, which is states, variables, and prop drilling. So, okay. So you might notice in the example in the PPT that we can pass variables within components, right? So, Sacho, for a bit. Okay, we can pass components within these things, right? So that's what we are going to do. We are going to pass in components. So let me get commit first. Completed view for home page. Okay, let's push. Okay, that's done. So let's implement the variables in input box and buttons. So let's go to inputbox.jsx, and here in the function definition, I'm going to use curly braces here. So why curly braces? That's because, you know what? Let's not use that. I think it's gonna be a little bit confusing. So I'm just gonna do prop here. Okay, props. Okay, so when we pass something, we can pass something in this input box. So for example, placeholder equals to calendar name. Okay, calendar name. If it's safe, we can access this variable, this text right here. We can access this by using props dot placeholder. So what we can do is we copy it and here. So we change the string into a curly braces. So if you see a curly braces inside of an HTML, that means that we want to place something from JavaScript here. So we can do this, props placeholder. So we hit save. So in the placeholder, we have calendar name. And here in the enter passcode, we don't have anything yet because we haven't added anything. So let's go to home and let's do it for this too. Placeholder equals, what do you call it? Passcode. Okay, passcode. Save it and bam. Changes like that. So This is kind of long and you might not like this because if you want to access any variables, you have to type props dot something, 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 right? So the shorthand of doing this, what you can do is you can replace props with curly braces, and then you type the variable that you want to take from it. So I want to take placeholder, right? So I type placeholder. And so here, I type placeholder. So this placeholder is this. And so if I save, nothing will happen because it's what it does. So you can do that. This is the shorthand thing. So you don't need to type props dot placeholder. You just need curly braces here. So this is called object destructuring in JavaScript. So it's a feature language. So it's a feature in JavaScript. It's intermediate feature. So if you guys want to take a look at it, yeah, I'll send the link here. So it's one of the benefits of using JavaScript, basically. So yeah, so we hit save. Everything doesn't change, right? And so let's do that for the button too. So okay, button here. Let's bring it here closer. And so I'm gonna do this name and then value. I'm gonna change it into the name. And so after doing that, we can just type name here and then create a random name. Okay, create and random name. Okay, we did that and bam, there we go. Okay, I want to touch something in button 2. So remember our example here. So we have a button that is bordered and one is not. So let's create that. So in button, I'm gonna take another one here. So is bordered. So again, so if you don't use object destructuring, if you use props, you access is bordered by using props that is bordered. So, but we don't do that here. So we just use the shorthand. So again, we go to class and then curly braces. Remember that's signifying JavaScript or your class name. Sorry. And so here I'm gonna type is bordered. So is bordered here. We expect it to be a boolean. So if we want a border, then the class should be bordered. Else, if we don't want it to be bordered, then fill. Okay, so let's save it. It's not gonna do anything because we haven't made the classes yet. So let's go to button and we type bordered. So if we want it to be bordered, then the border should be hashtag 48 E5 C2. That's for the colors. It should be a solid border, and let's make the stroke 3 pixels. So let's hit save. Nothing's gonna happen yet because now it's in filled because our buttons don't have is bordered yet. You know what? Let's do it here. Is bordered. So to do this, you have normally you type this. So is bordered is a boolean, right? So you type it with true, but in React we don't have to do that. So if it's bordered, we type is bordered here. This will automatically be a true. So yeah, okay. We have that. Let's save button CSS. Okay, nothing happened yet. That's because we have to move this into. I think it's filled. And yeah, okay. And okay. Okay. So background color should be transparent here in border. Now it disappeared. What? Okay, I think I made a mistake somewhere. The border is not showing. So pixel? Is it? I think. Huh. Oh, okay. That's because I already put border 0 here, so they fight each other. So let's put border 0 here instead in field. So okay, bam, we have it. 3 pixels. Okay, and for the border session, we type the color to be white instead. So okay. So we have it. There we go. Create and random name. So that's passing variables through React. So passing variables through components in React, such as this placeholder, color name, placeholder, passcode. This is called prop drilling. So if you guys want to look more on that, you search prop drilling in Google. And so now let's get to states. So okay, states, and let's do functions too. Okay, so we have 2 buttons here, right? One is create, one is random name. And so the team in GDSC has discussed so what random name should do. So random name, what this does is it should generate a new calendar name here. So yeah, so if you don't know what to name your calendar, you can just randomly generate it, and so your link will be the auto-generated name. So it's kind of like Bitly. So Bitly, if you shorten a URL, it will auto-generate something for you, right? Or you can enter it custom. And so, yeah, let's do that. So in the zip file that I have given you guys, that you guys hopefully have extracted. So let's take a look at that. So we go to misc, we go to util.js. So we have several functions here that I already created prior. So what we really care about is this function, randwords. So this is an idea I got for Twitch actually. So Twitch, when you create a clip from Twitch, it will auto-generate a URL. And the URL is not like some ugly blah, 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 like that, no. But it actually is formed from English words. So you have links such as table, cool, octopus, gaming, or something. So the link is like this. So I had an idea to create a link like that. So yeah, we already have the function here. So randwords, len. So len here is how many words that you want to create. So this is 4, right? So this is the result, blah, 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 blah. And the words we got from here. So this is the list of words, very long. I think we got 1,000 words. So I gathered this from this link. So this is the credit, yeah. Yeah, I just copied everything here, put it into Python, and then generated this thing. So yeah, it's nice. So we will be using this already generated function. So to do that, before we are able to auto-generate something, we have to change the input box. So in the input box, we have to type value and onChange. Okay, so I'm gonna explain onChange later, but this is pretty important. And so let's take a look at value first. So value, let's just do this. Value in this HTML dictates what you want to show here. What is the text here? So if you set value into something, so let me refresh. Let me go to home. Let me go to input box. Value equals to bro. It will appear as bro. Okay. And so that's that. And one change, I'm gonna touch on that later. So, okay, let's take a look at states now. So variables, states. So in JavaScript, you can create variables, right? You might notice that we haven't created a single variable yet. So you can type something like this, const bruh equals to bruh something, I don't know. So we can type it here, and then we can pass this variable as something here. So value equals bruh. So remember, if you want to pass something that is not a string, you want to pass something JavaScript, you put it inside of curly braces. And so if I do this, if I save, then like that, like so. But if I try to change this value, if I type something here, I'm typing something now, but it doesn't change anything. But I can type in passcode. So why doesn't it change? I'm typing right now, but it doesn't change. It doesn't change because every time you type something, this whole function gets rerun by JavaScript. This is a core element of React. So if I type something, everything here gets run again. So if I type A here, this will be run. So this variable will stay the same, will be the same, buruh or something. So even though I type something, this variable doesn't change, right? So we need a way to change this variable so that this can change too. So how do we do that? So to do that, we use something called states in JavaScript. So in React, sorry. So in React, when you want to define a variable that can change, you don't define a variable like this, but you define something called a state. So to define a state, you type this const, and then you type brackets, square brackets, and then the name of the variable. So let's type cal name, comma, set cal name equals to use state. So this should appear in your autocomplete. And then it will import something from React. And then in use state, we type empty string. So what is this? So this defines a variable. So the variable begins with an empty string. So this is pretty much equivalent to this. It will start with an empty string, and it will be put in cal name. So you change value into cal name. And then what is set cal name? Set cal name is the setter function. So if you want to change cal name, you don't do it like this. You don't do it like this. No, you don't do it like this, but you do this set cal name this instead. So if you want to change the value of cal name, you don't change it directly, but you call a function which will set it. So if you guys remember Java, it's basically getter and setter. It's basically setter. So this is the setter function. Okay, and then why the brackets here? That's because you state returns an array. So the array is length of 2. So we use this to destructure it. So it relates to the article that I sent in the chat. So it's called array destructuring. So we put it in cal name and set cal name. So each time you call set cal name, not only will it change the value of cal name, but it will re-render the whole application. It will re-render everything. So if I type console.log here, I'm fancy. Let's do this. Render. And if we go to console, okay, let's just stay here. Later I will show. So let's just save. Let's get rid of this first. So you guys can see here, render 1, render 2. So each time this component gets redone again, this will print. I'm gonna show this later, okay? So value is cal name. And then in here, I'm gonna pass something on change. So on change equals to set cal name. Okay, I'm gonna pass this variable first. Okay, I'm gonna pass this function, I mean, to on change. So let's go to input box. So in input box, we have on change, right? So I'm gonna type on change equals to, so let me cheat again. Sorry. Okay, this is where the JavaScript part really comes in. So this gets too long, right? So we can just enter. So it's more tidy. It's okay if you do this. It's convention. That's fine. So each time this input box is changed. So each time this is changed. So currently I'm typing something that is not changing. So each time this is being typed on change will, this function in on change will run. So let me type a function. So this function will run. So what you want to do is we change the text. We call setCal name over here. So setCal name is already passed in on change, right? So on change, yeah, it should appear here. So we do on change, and then we put the new value. So the new value we can access from this function by typing event. So yeah, event dot target dot value. So this is the new value. So okay, this might be very confusing, but what this does is each time we type something in the input box, this function will be run by onChange, because onChange is built in the input element. This function will run, and it will run this function called onChange that we got from this, and the parameter is event.target.value. So event.target.value means that the new text we just typed here, and then onChange we pass setCal name here. So okay, so let's hit save, and then we refresh. So if we type, now it's possible. So if you see here, it re-renders the whole thing if we type anything. But that's basically how React works. So we change something, and then everything will change. It will re-render everything. So we really need all this so we can call that function earlier that we talked about here, run words. So yeah. Okay, it's almost 3. Let's just implement the button here. Okay, so let's go to button. So let's type on click here too. So I'm gonna type enter again just to make things steady. Okay, not that. This okay. Here, button has a built-in thing called on click. So let's just do this here, on click. So each time the button is clicked, this function will run. This function that is passed to the button. So let's just do this. So yes, border. So this is true, right? So no need. And then here we type on click equals to. So we create a function here. So function open. So in this function, we are going to set the cal name into something. So for example, let's type the new cal name. So if we hit enter, then refresh. If I click random name, bam, changes. So to change this thing, to change cal name, we need all this work. So we need to create something called a state, basically, to recap. And if we want to change the state, we want to change the variable, we need to call the setCal name function, which is on the second index of this array. And we can call it by invoking it through button here. We created on click, and then we create function. So each time we click this function will run, and inside this function, it will call the setCal name, and it will set it into new cal name. So that's it. That's React states. And in the button, yeah, you can see that on click equals to on click because we passed the variable here. And on click basically is built into input. And each time you click the button, this will be triggered, the function inside of this. So yeah. And that I already gave in MISC. So let's import it manually. So import. What is it called? Run words from MISC util. And run words, we are going to copy it here. Run words, and then the length, well, let's just set it to 4. And so hit save, and then we refresh just for good measure, and there we go. We have the calendar name. Now, I just remembered that everything is uppercase, so okay. But that's fine. That's fine. So we have the words ready. Now I'm gonna change it a little bit there. If you don't want this to be uppercase, just copy my code, okay? So const word equals this, and then word 0 equals this plus word dot substring 1. Okay. Hopefully this works. Okay, it works. So if you don't want the ugly uppercase everything, I just copy what I did here. Okay. So that's it for our workshop for today. So if you notice here in the notepad, you might see that we have one more thing that we need to do, that is routing. But yeah, we can do it next week because time is running out here. So that's it for the React workshop. I think I'm gonna give this back to Jessica and Philip, and we can open our Q&A. Thank you everyone for following, and you guys can ask now, basically.
Yeah, so now starts our Q&A session. Thank you so much, Jason. If you guys have any questions regarding anything, we can answer it right now.
You guys can either type it in the chat box or unmute mic immediately. Okay, we have. Oh. Never mind.
Belum. Yeah, if it's apa, especially the states part, it can be really confusing for beginners. So if you guys have any questions, yeah, don't hesitate to ask here. Oh, yeah, don't leave first, yeah, guys. Ada attendance later for the form. So yeah.
While we wait for the questions, why don't we recap what we did today, Jason?
Oh, right.
Just very brief.
Okay. Untung bisa dikontrol Z. Okay. So we did a lot of things today. So we created our React project. So we use npx create React app, and then the name of our project. We did that. So after we have created it, we got into the project using VS Code, and then we took a look at the files generated. And then we know index.js, index.css, app.js. So app.js is the main thing that we edit. Then index is, we don't really touch this. And then we created our first component. And then we learned that there is two parts to each component. So we can have the JSX part and then the CSS part. And then we created some common components, input boxes. We pass variables through it using something called prop drilling. And then we use these components inside home. And then we take a look at states so we can change the values using functions. And yeah, that's basically it for today. Next week we're gonna actually make the calendar. So yeah.
Jason, I have a question. Why
what
didn't
is-
you change the font?
Okay, that's next week too then. I actually don't have the fonts downloaded. So yeah. Fun. Let's do it first thing to recap everything. So yeah. Why didn't I just do this then? Any questions?
Maybe they're saving it for next week.
Ooh.
If there aren't any questions, I think we can just do attendance or photo session first. Yeah.
Photo session.
Yeah, photo session.
Okay.